Did you try a no technology day? If you did, let us know how it went.
Hello, my friends. The winds are howling like it's hot out there, so I'm filming inside today. That's going to make it so that you can actually hear me instead of just the wind sounds in the speakers. But speaking of hot, let's take a look at these guys. These guys would love to live in a different world, a different time. And they're probably not alone, because there's a lot of us that maybe feel this sensation that we were born in the wrong time. We're even born in the wrong world. If this is you, stay tuned and let's talk a little bit about how we can world shape and bridge the worlds a little bit. Now, I spoke about this in Becoming Dungeon Master. And if you've studied any of the old Eastern wisdom traditions, you will have learned some of these things too. But this is this basic idea that the world comes in two forms, basically. It comes in a form in which we look at it and we just take it as the reality. And then the world shows itself to us in a very certain way. Or we can look at the world and we can think of it as something that's moldable by us. And then the world appears quite differently. Now, there's a lot of us, it might be you, that are stuck in a job that we hate, just trying to pay the bills, pushing along through what often feels like kind of a gray, dull life. I know I can look around myself sometimes at this world. I can look at all the cars, for instance, and all the plastic, and just think, this is not the world I want to be in. This probably happens to all of us who have a romantic or creative nature inside of us. But it can be beaten down. As little kids, we understand that the world is shapeable, and we use our imagination to literally create worlds of experience for ourselves. But as we become adults, we often hand that baton over to movie makers and entertainment creators, and they start to form worlds for us. And because often they're just chasing dollars, it's not going to be a world that we really, really want to live in necessarily. We go into a movie, we watch it, we get excited, we have emotional ups and downs. It's more exciting than our regular life, and yet it's not necessarily a world we'd actually want to go into and live in. And very few of us, unless maybe you're a role player and you've created a world for yourself, have any kind of continuity between the worlds that you experience. So you come back from work, you're experiencing the quote real world, and then you watch a movie and that gives you a different kind of world experience, and then you read a book and that gives you another kind of world experience. And probably for most of us, the best place we can escape this world is through authors that have done really good world building. And at least as long as they're writing a series, and if we don't read too fast, we can immerse ourselves in a world for a little bit. But usually underlying all of this is a deep discontent with the lot that we've been given in life, or just this world, this time that we exist in. Now, some people break out of that, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, is how we can get out of that mindset of just dwelling and putting up with this world that we've been put into and become world shapers. People do this in lots of different ways. And one that's encouraged by our society is to earn a lot of money and get influence. And then the idea is that you can shape your world a little bit. Still, you're kind of living in this world, this time. You're still a little bit stuck. And as much as we would like to just be here, experiencing nature, quiet, the plane is flying overhead. It interrupts. It comes in and butts itself into the world that we're trying to create. And from knowing some people that have gone that route, I'm going to suggest that that is not necessarily the best way to really shape this world. We can have some influence over it, but often we're still stuck in the basic paradigms that our world puts up for us, which is this endless quest for more and trying to manipulate the system in order to get people to have good opinions of us or whatever it is. Then there's people that get a little bit more creative. So I had a friend once that just really wanted to live in medieval times, and he created a Renaissance fair. Now, he didn't have the money to do it, but he got investors, he got people to believe in what he was doing, and sure enough, he created a Renaissance fair, a medieval fair. And it was a perfect example of how we can start to create the reality we want to experience if we get creative. Other people maybe want to live in Viking times and they start a reenactment village, or they just start a YouTube channel where they do reenactments. But there's something even more profound. And the more I explore life, the more I become convinced that there's really something going on here that's a little bit different than we imagine. And that we have much more power to world shape than we think. And I've learned this through direct experience, my own experiences of, certainly not having money, just having a little YouTube channel, not a lot of influence, and yet finding that we could move up north and create a wilderness school. And we did it in unorthodox ways. But there I got to live in the wilderness world that I wanted to live in. Rebecca, really interested in a world of local food, and Mirabelle, really interested in a world where there's horses instead of cars. When we ended up moving down here, we've entered into a world, our neighbors, the people we're surrounded with, the properties we're surrounded with, the Amish, that have almost eerily aligned to create a world where we walk out the door and are just as likely to hear hoof falls on the roadway as we are to hear a car's engine. Now, we haven't completely shifted into a new reality, but we have shifted our experience of reality very profoundly from other realities, if you will, that I used to experience in my life. And you can do the same thing. So if you're one of these people that you don't feel like you fit into this world, I'm going to give you a little outline here of how to develop some skills that will create a different world for yourself. Number one is to just try to stop giving energy to lamenting the way the world is. And I know this is very tempting. Many of us love to complain. And it's easy to sit there and go, ugh, I wish things were different. But that takes a lot of mental energy. And if we start to look at our life and say, what are we going to apply our mental energy to? And we start doing it consciously, we're going to find that we have power to shape our world in a way that we didn't when we were just complaining. Number two is to question the things that have you trapped. This might be a job, it might be a lousy relationship that you've tried over and over to work on and it's just not going anywhere. It might be your own mental attitudes, your own conceptualizations. Usually there are things, if we feel trapped in this world, that are trapping us. And we have to look really carefully at those. For a lot of people, for instance, it's money. And money is really interesting because we're given the message that the key is to make more money. If we have enough money, at some point, we'll have enough and we won't be striving for more money anymore. And we only have to look at the majority of billionaires to see what they are applying their energies to a lot of them trying to make more money. Not all. And that's important to notice. It doesn't matter where we are on that financial spectrum. That's not the important thing. The important thing is our attitude towards money. So if we look carefully, probably we don't actually want more money. What we want is to not have to think about money, to not have that be a thing that weighs us down. And here's the important part, is that when we switch that thinking, we'll have creative juices flowing that weren't flowing before. If we just try to make more and more and more, we're probably going to find ourselves trapped in the more and more and more game. But no matter where we are financially right now, if we say, how could we make it so that money isn't a thing that I dwell on or worry about or think about? And then notice that there are billionaires who don't have to think about money, and there are homeless people or people that have gone moneyless who don't have to think about money. Both sides of the spectrum. And if you're in between, where most of us are, then we have that same thing available to us. So how can we get creative? Third is to look at your location in the world. We did a video recently about getting out of the city. You might want to get into the city. Your world may not be, for me, it's a simpler, less technological world that I want to be in. Yours might be, what do they call that? Cyberpunk or hyper-technological. So where we are dwelling can be an important factor. And if we look around, maybe even to other countries, get exploratory. You can be an expat somewhere. There's tropical places to live. There's Arctic hothy places to live. There's technological places to live. There's very low-tech places to live. So many possibilities. But often where we are can help to keep us kind of feeling stuck. So question, do I really need to stay where I am, or am I just staying in the place I'm at out of habit? And is there some creative way, keep using that word creativity, because that's the important word here. Is there some creative way that I could shift my location to a place that would be more fitting for the life I want to live? Next, of course, is people and community. Because there are probably other people that want to live in the same way you do, or similarly to the way you do. And connecting with those people can be empowering. Some of them will have figured out ways to essentially create the reality they want to experience. Some of them might want to pool resources, pool creativity, pool ideas in a way that can help everybody to live that reality that everybody is seeking in that group. Here, we're surrounded by people that live pretty kind of, I'm going to call them magical lives. They are foragers and people that love nature, people that love local food, love growing their own food, love learning new things, love sitting around a campfire playing music. So the people we're surrounded with are a powerful force for creating that reality that we're looking for. And the last and most perhaps esoteric method that I'll talk about here is really delving into how our mind, our perception, creates the reality that we experience. This has been an ongoing exploration for me. But as I said, the more and more I go down this route, the more and more I see that my perception of what I'm experiencing is literally creating the reality I experience. This goes on so many levels. If Mirabelle, my daughter, comes out in the morning and she's kind of grumpy, the way I perceive that dictates what's going to happen in my mentality. whether I'm going to get in a bad mood too and think that this and blah, 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 or if I'm going to come into a super loving place and connect with her and form a deeper bond because I'm meeting her bad mood with love. This happens with the weather. It's hot outside. I can be, this is horrible and cold and I just don't like it. Or I can go out and I can experience and love it. On these days, basically the world is my own. I wrote about that in Chasing Turkeys. If you remember that scene, if you read the book, when I went out and it was just the most horrific blizzard. Nobody was out. It was not horrific for me. It was wonderful. The whole world was mine, all alone. I was in a giant winter wonderland, the only human that existed. It was a very amazing experience. One of the keys to making this esoteric part work is to recognize that we are always in the moment. So I could be out in that experience, in that Hoth-like world, the only human in existence. Or I could remove myself mentally from that moment and think about how the storm will end, essentially, and this experience will end. Rebecca and I were walking down a country lane once when we were really, really struggling financially. We were holding hands and we looked at each other and we realized in that moment that we were millionaires, that we had everything that we thought money would get us in that moment. Just walking in the sunshine, picking wild plums from the side of the road and eating them, talking. All of our life is composed of these moments, but our mind will take us out of them and will actually sacrifice the moment for its little thought games. And in that way, we remove ourselves from the reality we're experiencing. Oddly, we can almost shift the realities we're experiencing with our perceptions, with our minds. And this goes deeper than I've even talked about here. Again, in Becoming Dungeon Master, I hint at this a little more deeply, but here it is. We aren't just at the mercy of this reality that we're in. We are shapers of it in some really amazing ways. But we have to get out of the traps, the mental bonds especially, that lock us down into thinking the world has to be a certain way. So where are you? You might be living in a habitual way, doing things that aren't really nourishing for you, not really going after your dreams or believing that your world could be different. And likely, if you're caught into that mindset, that will be your continued existence. But hopefully this video can help to break you out of that and help you realize that we have more power than we've been told to shape this reality we experience. If you want, you can get new agey and metaphysical with this, but you don't even have to. Right on a super practical, basic level, we all can do this. But we have to recognize how much our mental state, our perceptions, our interpretation of any input that's coming in affects the reality we experience. Share your thoughts in the comments, my friends. As always, I'm so grateful that you're part of my family's life, and I love reading what you have to say. All right, love to you all.